Hi, I'm Linda Frazee, and this is a part two of three parts of the Winds of Change. We're all in a very tumultuous time right now in our United States, in the political system, with the weather, with our climate change, with everything. And so wherever you are, I'm sure you're experiencing some change too. So in the first part of the first series, which was recorded last week, I talked about how there was a model of change, about how things happen and we either make a decision to go into proactivity or reactivity. And so today I'm going to carry that theme forward a little bit more and talk a little bit about what we do when we're in that reactive place and what to do about it. Again, my name is Linda Frazee, and I've been teaching these systems for 40 years, helping people figure out how they are in change and how to become more effective and navigate it more effectively. So I'm going to put a model up here about change. Well, it's actually about deprivation and compulsion. And what it shows is the idea that what happens when we get too upset.
Okay, it's on.
Oh, it is. So we're seeing it a little bit here. So I think you can see it. It's not always easy to get these things up. If you've ever done this, you know how difficult it can be. So there's something that happens when we get upset with change. We usually go into either compulsion or deprivation. And of course, the answer would be to go down and get into balance. And so for those of you who are reading this instead of seeing it, I'd like you to imagine a U. And on the left side of the U is compulsion. And on the right side is deprivation. And then at the very bottom of this U is a circle that kind of coincides or attaches to the model, and it says balance. So let's talk a little bit about an upset in your life. So usually when people get upset, I'm going to start out with food as an illustration. When people get upset, they usually do one of two things around food. You've probably known this. I don't know which type you are, but some people, when they get upset with something, they can't eat at all. They can't eat anything, no matter what. And people are saying to them, you've got to eat. I'm not talking about just during a death. I'm just saying about any kind of upset. They don't want to eat anything at all. And that's not good for them, because that would be in deprivation. It's okay if you do that for a day, but if several days in a row, you're not getting nutrition and you can't think straight, and that makes you even physically more upset. Now, other people go the opposite direction and they get compulsive and they go into old habits. Could be, if it's eating, they're going to eat their old childhood foods, the things that make them feel comfortable, and they have a hard time stopping. It could be drinking. They might go into drinking or other compulsive behaviors that don't really work well for them, spending money perhaps. So, and obviously both of these are reactions from when you're below the line in that model I talked about last week of reactivity. So again, I want to just restate this. So what happens is something happens in your life that you get upset about, and then two very common choices that people go to is either depriving themselves or going to compulsive behavior. Sometimes people quit smoking. They haven't smoked in years. They get into a very upset situation and compulsively they start smoking. I'm sure many of you have had that experience before. Now, again, at the bottom of this U, this nice U, that compulsion is on the left and deprivation is on the right, the very bottom is balance. So the best thing that could happen for us is if we could just go down when we get upset and get into balance. So that would be the times that we could go in and meditate. We could go back and do a healthy physical practice, or maybe go hiking, or something that's read poetry, read any kind of things that bring you to a complete stop inside and balance, and just find some glory in life again. However, that's not always easy. So what do you do if you find yourself in compulsion? Well, I'm going to go back to eating because that's such a common thing in this world today. So let's say you find yourself just compulsively eating and you can't seem to stop, and it's been going on for a week. The change happened a week ago, but a week later you're still eating. And so when it comes to compulsion, you're at the very top of that U, at the end of the U, at the highest point of compulsion. Now, so then often what people do is says, well, I've got to go on a diet. This is terrible. So they let go and they swing right around through the balance And with all of that same momentum from the top of the compulsion, they go into the top of deprivation. I am not eating any sugar for the next 10 years, they say. And so there they are in deprivation, not allowing themselves to have anything that could be too many calories. And they're on this extreme diet. Maybe they're just eating bananas or, the orange juice diet or the grapefruit diet or whatever. And so there they are until they're not, because we can only stay in deprivation for so long. And then they let go and swoop, they go through the U again and they come out on the other heightened end of compulsion. So the answer to that is to take a step down on either side. So let's say you've been compulsively eating. Instead of saying, I will never eat anything again in some compulsive diet, you take steps away from the highest point of your compulsion. Let's say you're eating chocolate bars every day. So you'd say, well, I'll just stop that. The best thing to do, if you're eating 4 of them, start eating only 2. The next day, or for a week, only eat 2, and the next week only eat 1. And that way you're stepping down, if you can imagine coming down a stair step of compulsion. And that way, even if you do let go and you swing over to deprivation, you won't go to the highest point of deprivation. So then maybe for a day you go on a fast and you don't eat much of anything one day. Okay, and then you let go again and you go back over on the other side of the compulsion, but it's not as high. So we could use this, I'm talking here about food because food is such a common element when it comes to change and feeding ourselves and making ourselves feel okay, but you could use this with any number of things. Time is another big one. So if you've been compulsively busy, and just going from one thing to the other all the time, and you have no time for yourself, and then you finally let go, the way we normally let go when we've been too busy with time, we get sick. And so then we go into deprivation on the other side where we can't even get out of bed, where time is just endless because we can't go back and do our work. That's a way of swinging over to deprivation. So if you catch yourself in spending your time compulsively, filling every second and not having any downtime at all, the thing to do is start stepping down in the same way that I mentioned with food, with time. And for today, since this is only the second of 3 lessons, the next choice would be to go down into balance. And you see, you can't get down into balance and stay there until you get out of either compulsion or deprivation. So certain types of the Enneagram tend to go more into compulsion or deprivation, and that will be another section of this 3-part series. But for today, I want you to think about, do you do compulsion? Do you deprivation? What is balance for you? And check out my website at lindafrazee.com and find out all about the Enneagram and how your type might be adding fuel to your own personal story. Also, you can join my community at authenticwisdom.com, and I'd love to see you. Take care.